Okay, so for number 45, the problem states that you have the square root of 15x squared minus 12x. All of that is equal to 9x. And we want to solve this equation. It's a radical equation, so the way we handle radical equations is by squaring both sides of the equation. The square of a square root is just whatever's inside the square root, so that's the easy part. Just gets rid of the square root by squaring both sides. This side, remember, we got to do 9x times 9x, and so that equals 81x squared. So when we solve this equation, we end up with, whenever we have x squareds and x's like this, we want to get them all on one side. And so that means if I subtract 15x squared and add 12x, I get this, which is going to give me 0 equals 66x squared plus 12x. If I then factor that, I get 6x times 11x plus 2. And so that means I get x equals 0. That's how this becomes 0. And a negative 2 over 11, because when does 11x plus 2 equal 0? Well, at negative 2 elevenths. Well, when I go through and do that, if I plug in 0, that's easy to see that that's a solution, right? Because square root of 0 is going to equal 0. Not hard at all to see that it's a solution. Negative 2 over 11 is a little bit harder to spot, except for the fact that when I plug negative 2 over 11 in for x, I get negative 18 over 11. Well, the square root can't ever equal a negative, so negative 2 over 11 becomes an extraneous solution to the problem. It is not an actual solution because a square root can't equal a negative. All right, then looking at 47, you've got the square root of x plus 6 equals the square root of 16x. And so there's a couple ways you could have handled this one, but there's one way in particular that makes it easy, which is if you can ever simplify a radical, you should. And the square root of 16x is just equal to 4 times the square root of x, because the square root of 16 equals 4, which means we can then subtract square root of x from both sides. Remember, square root of x is like 1 square root of x, and so that's just going to give me 3 square root of x. Now it's a much simpler problem. Divide both sides by 3. I get 2 equals the square root of x, so when I square both sides, I get x equals 4. All right, and then the last one to look at is 48. And so for 48, you've got 3 square root of a plus 7 equals the square root of 16a. And this one is going to be handled just like that one, where you get 3 square root of a plus 7 equals, well, this is just 4 square root of a. And so when you subtract 3 square root of a from both sides, you get the square root of a equals 7. So a, when you square both sides, just equals 49. So that's a few examples of radical equations.